Welcome, everyone, to this regular session of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is Monday, May 8th. The time is 7:30. First order of business is the pledge to the flag. As you will all notice, I am not Meg Healy. She is not feeling well this week, so our thoughts are with her. Also, we learned sad news this week that the former town manager for South Kingstown, John Connors, has passed, so if we could just take a moment of silence to remember him. Thank you. All right. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Council Vice President Collins.
Here.
Councilman DeCruz.
Here.
Councilwoman Gledhill.
Here.
Councilman Veely.
Here.
4 members present. Council President Healy is absent.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of minutes of previous meetings. Do I hear a motion on items 4A, B, and C?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously. Item 6.
Hold on, Abel, I need to make a motion.
Oh, that's right.
Mike,
All right, move quickly.
I need to make a motion to go into executive session after this meeting. If, Mike, you could help me out with that.
Possible litigation with regard to the campus cinema property.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and now to item 6, licenses. 6A is a resolution granting a miscellaneous permit to conduct the 12th annual Narrow River Turnaround Swim on Saturday, June 24th, for the Narrow River Preservation Association. Subject to the execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town and issuance of a certificate of insurance naming the town as an additional insured for the event in the amount specified by the finance director. Proceeds to fund NRPA, water testing, and education initiatives. Application by Allison Cates. Is Allison here? Please come up to the podium. And just for the record, can you state your name again?
Perry Moylan.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about the race, or is it a race? A swim?
Well, yeah, we don't want to classify it a race, but it's a fun event. This is the 12th year we've had it. It actually starts at the URI Boathouse on Walmsley Lane, which is North Kingstown. However, the swim does extend into the South Kingstown property line. We have 3 lifeguards, we have 6 to 7 kayakers, we have 2 motorboats, we have North Kingstown EMS at the boathouse, and for the last 12 years without incidents. It's a mile, takes about, the longest rate someone can take is an hour.
That's good, sounds very safe. Is it open to the public? Anybody can swim?
You have to have proof that you can swim a mile in under an hour.
What happens if they don't swim in under an hour?
Then the boat will pick them up or a kayak will drag them to shore.
You're telling me I can't swim.
And kids do it, adults do it. It's a fun event.
Yeah. How do you register if somebody's interested?
Online, you can Google Narrow River Preservation Association, and it will come up, and you can register online. You can register day of. Last year we did 150 is the max number of swimmers, and we did max out.
That's great.
Motion to approve agenda item 6A.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion
Thank you.
carries unanimously. Congratulations. 6B is a resolution granting a miscellaneous permit to conduct a portion of the 2017 Ride the Road bike event in South Kingstown. This is on Saturday, June 10th and Sunday, June 11th, to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Subject to the execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town, issuance of a certificate of insurance naming the town as an additional insured for the event in the amount specified by the finance director, approval by the town's Traffic and Transportation Review Committee and the RIDOT, proceeds to benefit MS programs and research. Application by Drew Davis. Is Drew or any other?
Hi, hello. My name is Robin Max. I work for the Society. I work with Drew.
Welcome.
Thank you. Would you like me to give you an overview or?
Yeah.
So this is actually the 30th year of the Ride the Road here in Rhode Island. This year we're actually starting in Newport at the casino and going over the bridges. If anyone's familiar with our Ride the Road, it typically happens in June, and this year it's June 10th and 11th. And our participants will go over the two bridges and then come into the neighborhoods, and we stay the participants and staff stay at URI both Friday and Saturday night. So both days, Saturday and Sunday, they will finish at URI. So we have an option of 35, 75, and 100-mile routes on Saturday, and then a 75-mile route on Sunday. So we anticipate somewhere around 500 riders. Will be supported by staff as well as volunteers. It's an annual event.
It's a great cause. So you heard some of the questions I asked previously. How do you register?
You can register online. We have a website within the National MS Society, as well as you can, we don't get tons of riders the morning of, but we do have some folks that will walk on. But we work on this all year round with a committee here locally in Rhode Island, as well as staff within Rhode Island and Massachusetts.
How much money do you raise usually?
We actually we're hoping to raise close to $500,000 this year, but last year we raised a little bit over $300,000 that will go to research and funding programs locally.
So impressive.
It's a long-time event that's been in the Rhode Island community.
Great.
I hear a motion.
Motion to approve agenda item 6B.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And that brings us to item 7 on the agenda, public hearings. The first public hearing, A, is relative to an application for expansion of a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown. This is in accordance with the general laws of 1956. This application for expansion of Class B victualler liquor license filed by SWT LLC, doing business as the Saltwater Tavern, of 195 Main Street, Wakefield. This is by Scott Sagard, managing member. Applicant requests permission to expand the area in which alcoholic beverages may be served to include a new patio area, including a 13-stool bar located in the former alleyway to the west of the building, in accordance with a special use permit granted June 15, 2016 by the Zoning Board of Review, and is further defined in a site plan dated April 4, 2017, on file in the town clerk's office. Said expansion is contingent upon compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, the payment of any municipal taxes and user fees and arrears to the town, and the correction of any fire code violations. Is Scott here, or his lawyer?
Good evening. Thank you for hearing the petition. Yes, I'm with Saltwater Tavern at 195 Main Street, and what we're seeking is to take...
Is there anything to read into the record, Dale? Okay. And sir, I didn't catch your name when you came up.
Scott Sogard,
Okay, so you
Saltwater
are
Tavern, 195 Main Street. And I'm not sure if you can see this. I could move it closer if you can. But basically, what we're hoping to do is to take a narrow alleyway that has been used in the past for parking, but now with the addition of a handicap ramp that we put in for the new reopening, it's now a very narrow drive space, and it's not the best. It's not ideal for parking, and at the same time for vehicles passing through, it's quite narrow as well. So what we're looking to do in an effort to offer more amenities, to give people a reason to come to our place in the summer as opposed to everything on the beach, some sort of an outdoor dining and just gathering environment space. So that's, in looking at the space, we're surrounded on two sides, either by the restaurant or by the apothecary, the pharmacy, and then to the rear, it's commercial property, being a hair salon. There is an apartment upstairs, and then also Peter Storty's building, which is formerly the funeral home. On the opposite side, the fourth boundary is the bicycle shop. So it just looked like and it does get sun. That area gets some sun, and it would be a nice little spot to sit out there, sort of, in a dining style. I could compare it to, it could be like simpatico kind of a thing that way, or outdoor cafe kind of, but it doesn't always have to be full service food, but that is our plan, that we would be serving full service food. We have a great little area. If you looked at the plot that I gave you, there's an area where from the back of the kitchen, the servers would be able to go right through this little back gate door. I've walked the property a number of times with our neighbors in the pharmacy, and they've been very much supportive of this. They like the idea of having more energy and more people down on that end of the street, and that would also allow a little bit more flow from people that are parking behind the Purple Cow to then go through that gate. They could also go through our gate. There would be some element of flow in our little gateway area there. So that's what we're hoping to do, and the intent would be to, depending on the timing and obtaining a building permit for the structure, the overhead structure that you see here from Jeff, we would then, as we're going through that, in an effort not to miss the summer, we would then be hoping to at least put tables, and chairs, and umbrellas out there, and at least be able to serve people out there, and definitely get up a fence with the gate and contain the area. But with regards to cutting across the pavement and then coming up with electrical and all of that, we might be a little bit behind the eight ball. I'm not saying it couldn't happen this summer, but we might be a little bit behind the eight ball for the construction side of it. So yes, this is our ultimate plan. I think I was a little confused at the last hearing in zoning, where we thought we had more seats approved, and then I guess the addition, somehow it ended up where we lost 20 that I thought was approved last time. But I'm not disputing that at this point, because that is what the notice of decision stated, and that is what we will do. So the idea would be people would then, in entering the building, entering the area, they'd have a choice. Either they can bear left and go into this outdoor, this cafe, al fresco environment, or they can take a right, go up the stairs, and go into the restaurant. And we think it's very serviceable, and we think that it's not easy to compete with waves crashing against your table when you're sitting there at the Coast Guard House. But this is our best shot here to try and lure some of that business to the town and to our establishment.
Are there any questions from the council for the applicant?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. Seasonally, do you plan to just be open for the summer, or were you going to put heating elements out there?
And that's a very good question. It's my response to that would be, New Englanders are a hardy breed. I go to Patriots games. It's unbelievable what people will do outside. Not saying that would be our theme, but my response is let the consumer decide whether they want to freeze or not. Typically what happens, I mean, I'm sure Phil's, eventually weather wins here in New England, and ultimately people will say it's just too inclement to be outside, whether you have a tent, as he has over there, or not. No matter what you do, eventually they won't go there. But rather than to stipulate and to say, oh, on this day in October or November, it's closed, my feeling is let them go out there, and then at some point we won't want to serve them out there anymore because it's extra staff. And that is expensive, especially with some of the legislation that's in front of the state right now with regards to minimum wage and also tip steam wages with servers. There's big issues now going on. And for us then to pay somebody to go and serve them, well, that's an economic deal too. So I would just say let the market and the weather determine whether people want to be out there.
Okay. And then I was curious about the parking situation. I think we all have been to previous establishment, Italian Village. Parking's always been an issue in that spot. And you have the 2 leases on file for more parking places. Is there a plan in place if one of those properties is sold or that parking doesn't become available anymore?
There are contingent areas that we would seek that I wouldn't necessarily divulge right now, just in that that wouldn't be our best bargaining position to do that. Right now we are paying for parking in the Storty lot, and those spaces exceed the requirement that's required. There has been a dust-up with regard to our neighbor's parking space, which we contend we have no lease. We honored the first lease, and we chose not to renew, basically, and that evidently, I don't know where the confusion is, but there clearly seems to be some confusion on his part. As far as we're concerned, we had an issue with that site in addition to the fact that that we didn't need it. It was an abundance of caution when we first approached. We didn't know what we would need when we had our first hearing on this. The former Italian Village, Mr. Moe is here tonight, they had just the spots on site. I think it was seven parking spaces. So, and I'll get back to the parking issue. So I think he did this for 30 years. So for 30 some odd years, whatever it was, at Italian Village, there were 7 parking places. So we knew there was something coming with the parking because we went and put in the handicap ramp, we put in handicap bathrooms, we did all this nice stuff, and then all of a sudden we've got this gun to our head on the parking, and we're on Main Street. So in an abundance of caution, we leased this lot across the street from the former cinema. What we found was our clientele, our customers, they didn't want to park there because people were ruining their heels. It's a gravel lot. They didn't like walking across that lot at night. And we didn't need it. And so then we started looking, well, Jesus, nobody's parking there anyway. So we didn't continue, we didn't re-up the lease. And that's our position, and that's just, that is what it is. But we do have ample parking with Mr. Sorty's lot, and that is active. He gets paid every month, and we have to pay that, and that's what we're doing.
Steve, I guess my question was, the way that this approval was written, it says that those lease agreements for the parking have to be valid, and I just didn't know what would happen if, say, we approve this tonight and, Peter Storty sells his building, or, something happens where those fall apart. What would this still be valid, or would they have to come before us again?
Or a legal question, but I think that what the specific answer would be is that he would be in violation of the special use permit that was granted by the zoning board. He was not able to provide the 22 parking spaces that was required as a condition of the variance.
Okay, so, because I would hate...
responsible for coming up with additional space, or he would be in violation of the zoning board.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was clear. I didn't want you to have to come back or close down or something in the middle of it. And then the only other question I had was about handicap accessibility. I know that you've made great effort to put the ramp in and the bathrooms are handicap accessible. Will it be accessible outside as well?
Yes, this area, this will be at sidewalk level, and there will be a wooden wooden fence with lattice. It'll look real nice. What's not represented on this is, our latest plan is we might do a little sort of a raised bed, little garden feature in front of the thing, which would look real nice from Main Street. But that's just an aside. But they'll be able to go right at that level, right through this wooden gate. And then at that point, then, when they're in this little cafe, this al fresco area, then they can either stay there or go up the ramp. So it really works pretty good. So they're already in there anyway. And to get up the ramp, they actually go right through the heart of the space.
Mr. Sogard, I have a question about, in your original approval, you were granted the ability to have amplified music till 11 p.m. Is that your intention in the outdoor?
No. At this point, I don't see us having I don't see it. What we would like to have is the same as any other outdoor dining. If we can have our regular music, a service that we purchase, which is a wireless service, sort of an ambient music. Would it make sense at some point? What we do now is we have typically a local single guitar player. The most people we've had playing music there is 2. And then after that, the cost goes up. So it just becomes, it doesn't make a lot of sense economically. But, so down the road, would it be nice to have, somebody out there, Jimmy Buffett, if we were to get, Graham Nash or Neil Young, yeah, I'd like to have them out there. You're doing an acoustic thing. But if that's going to hold up this, I'm not going to get in the way of trying to, that would then cost us the summer. So, at that point, I guess whatever we'd have to do, I guess we'd have to come back and say, geez, we've got Bob Dylan, he's playing out there, and we'd like to hear him.
Thank
you. How long is your lease with Mr. Storti?
It's renewable. It's ongoing, renewable annually, and it's in full force and effect. We have to actually cancel it for it. It's.
Right. I guess what I was just thinking, whether or not, if the sale goes through of that property, whether that'll carry as part of that sale.
Okay.
In normal transactions, if it was a multi-year lease, it would be part of the deal.
Well, no, very good question, and I've had considerable discussion with Milton, who's the applicant for the use of that property, and he's all for it. He's a regular customer in the restaurant. He loves what we're doing, and we think that it, as far as he was concerned, at least verbally, and it's hard to contractually obligate something before you own it, but he seems all for it.
How many parking spots are available over there?
There's a number of spaces. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say it was 50-ish. I think something just happened with Milton's application, actually. So you would know exactly. He just went through this thing. This is a different board. He just went through zoning.
Right.
And what was required was, and I attended that hearing and all of that, and I see him regularly. And he lost a bunch of spaces to landscaping, to bushes and trees and that sort of thing. So there was some kind of a reduction in spaces, but still it left ample spaces. He didn't seem to think. And when I saw it, I said, gee, Miller, are we still good on the... He go, oh, yeah, there's plenty of spaces. So that's what we know. You probably know more about the status of that application than I do at this point.
Thank you.
Well, can I just clarify on the question as far as music? Under the permit itself, it says that there was suggested for use of amplified music, but no entertainment outside, and that's not what you just said.
Is that the 15th of the July, the latest one? 15th?
July 15, 2016.
Is that on the first page?
Yeah, first page. I think, I'm going to...
Amplified use of music. Yeah, amplified would be, little speakers in the, like we have through the restaurant where there's ambient music. Unless it's live music All music is amplified.
Paragraph simply states, says, under the fan, and there shall be no entertainment outside. That was the representation.
Okay, yep, yeah, no, and I'm not disputing that. I guess just to be clear, background music that comes through speakers without a person there. That's what we represented at the last meeting, and I believe that's what was granted here.
My concern was,
So-
the statement was that you may have a guitar player. What I'm saying is that's contrary to what special use permit is that you asked for.
Can you repeat back what I said?
I think earlier you had said that you might have Bob Dylan,
No.
or Neil Young, I think.
I
heard that. But I think basically there's just a question of, this special use permit would not allow a guitar player to.
Right, and I'm totally in agreement with that. If we did want to then at some point, I'd say it'd be a shame to not do that. I guess we'd come back and then
Wants to come, you need.
we'll talk to you. Okay. That's what we'll do.
I just had one final question about the fireplace that you have proposed out there. Can you just tell me a little bit about that? Because that's such a narrow space, it made me a little nervous.
Right. Well, there's a cost factor that could determine the type of fireplace. For a wood-burning fireplace, which would be my first choice, Jeff would have this on the top of his head, just how high the chimney has to go. But it has to go way up. And I don't know exactly how high, but it's way up. For a gas fireplace that you'd see, it's Blue on the Water or these other places, that doesn't have to go as high. So right now, just from the economic standpoint, we're probably leaning towards gas, even though a real wood fire is I think, a lot nicer, but it's also more expensive to maintain. So we're kind of leaning that way.
Any other questions from the council? Are there people from the public who would like to speak to this item?
Hello.
Hello.
Trish Claude from Mars Attracts, right next door. There's an opening to our parking lot where they come by to use the dumpster in the lot. And I'm wondering if there is some way to enclose with a gate, perhaps, so that people aren't going to be walking back and through into our parking lot. That's a question I have.
The dumpster, is that on your property or on their?
That is on the property that I rent.
Okay.
And he has, but there's also, you could walk in front of, or you could have a gate that opens and closes, but right now it's like a free walkway.
Okay. I don't think those details are on these plans, but we can certainly ask Scott what his plans are.
We do keep our dumpster on that property as an agreement and part of the term of the sale with Mr. Molo, and we would continue to do that, but we're happy to put some kind of a gate that would help alleviate that.
Is there a gate also that goes towards the apothecary too? Or is that
Yes.
the same thing?
Yes, there is. There's an existing gate that goes to the apothecary as well. And initially, when Ken from the apothecary and I were both sort of opening at the same time, walking around the area, we thought collectively that, geez, it'd be nice if there weren't any fences and everyone could park, and there would be a lot more flow from the Purple Cow right all the way over to Storty's property, and including this property from the woman who's just up. Just the more you gate and shut things off, the less flow there is. It's not as good for business, and this is a commercial zone. But we'll be happy to do that.
I mean, I know it's a commercial zone, but there's also residential properties fairly close by, and then I think above the salon there's an apartment that's
Right.
rented too. So, you know, it would be a shame to sort of make that a really busy place where, you know, now there's no quiet or, you know, tenants couldn't enjoy a peaceful night. So I would just want to be careful that we're not, you know, the music's directed sort of away from that and the speakers.
Right. Right.
I'm certain if Bob Dylan came down, you would probably get permission to have him play.
No, we're friendly with the neighbors, Bill, and we you know, we speak to them, and they seem to be supportive.
Any other comments from the public? Mr. Trigg.
Very quick one. I generally support this.
Thank you. Any final comments up here? All right, I'd entertain a motion to...
Can I ask one question of Scott?
Sure.
We're showing on the build-out a full bar setup, and what I'm interested in is how is the alcohol being controlled during after hours? Is that in a cased area?
That's a good question.
You're talking about a fence that can be built. Is this going to be locked and secured?
Yes, the fence will be the first barrier, and then the second will be, if any of you may recall, there was a place in Newport called Christie's before it was purchased and made into a real kind of a big condominium complex. They had a bar, and the way they would, it was on a pier, and the way they would secure it as you're bringing to light is they had these wooden panels that would drop down and have the bar itself be secured. So that is our plan when we go ahead and put the bar out there. It would then have, if you can imagine that here's the bar, and then these would be the wooden panels that would then drop down and then secure from the inside of the bar. And they did it like that for years, and they're not the only ones. That's kind of a standard way that you secure it. You make the bar itself the wall, and then you have these panels on these block and tackle deals that then drop down, and then they drop, they secure it. So the answer is yes, we'll be doing that. We don't want to be robbed.
You don't have anything designed at this point? It's just that's what you're believing?
Well, we'd be presenting that to the building department with Jeff, yes.
Good. At this point, no further testimony. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Do I hear a motion on item 7A?
I'll make a motion that we approve item 7A as presented in the agenda.
Were you going to add a condition with regard to this gate?
On the condition that there will be a gate put in place facing the lot where the dumpster is at Mars Attracts.
Yeah, so that's an additional condition, including all the other conditions in the motion.
Yes, so moved.
In accord with the special use permit that was granted by the zoning board on July 15, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Good luck. Let us know when Bob Dylan is coming to town, please. Public hearing 7B is a public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance relative to Article 3, Use Regulations, Article 5, Supplementary Regulations, Article 6, overlay zones, special zones, and special management districts, and Article 12. Definitions pertaining to the regulation of marijuana-related uses, including the proposed new uses of marijuana retail facility, marijuana cultivation facility, and marijuana emporium, as shown on Exhibit 1 attached to your agenda. Chelsea.
Good evening.
Hold on one second, Chelsea. I think we have something to add to the record.
Planning board on the record.
Go ahead.
A communication to the council dated March 29th from the South Kingston Planning Board recommending the amendments as printed on the agenda and incorporating findings of fact, consistency with the comprehensive community plan, and findings of fact, consistency with the purposes of zoning.
Okay, we're ready. Good evening, Chelsea Seifert, Town of South Kingstown Planning Director. Before I started, I'd like to just apologize in advance. I woke up with an allergy-induced sore throat, so I might sip as I talk. Okay, so the Planning Board first discussed amending the zoning ordinance to allow medical marijuana-related uses at its December 2016 work session. In January of 2017, the board actually voted to recommend revisions to the zoning ordinance to the council. However, subsequent to that motion, several planning board members attended the two presentations that you had here from the Attorney General and then from an advocacy group. And so in February, they discussed amending their motion to you based on sort of what they heard at those presentations. So the draft ordinance under consideration that you have in front of you was recommended by the board on March 28th of this year. And one of the major things I think that came out of listening to those presentations was that the board really felt that the revised or the ordinance should address both medical marijuana and recreational in the event that recreational marijuana be permitted legally by the Rhode Island General Assembly. They wanted to not, sort of create a vacuum there where, people could come in and take advantage of it not being addressed. And really the way that was addressed in the proposed draft is to remove the term medical. And so you'll see most of it is just marijuana-related uses, not medical marijuana-related uses. So the amendments modify the zoning ordinance in several ways. The first way, the board felt it was important to create a brand new use code category. So the zoning ordinance classifies uses by category: agriculture, commercial, residential. And so this one creates a new use code category for marijuana-related uses, and that's intended to make it very clear that these are not agricultural uses in the view of the town. So in addition to the use code category, it adds 3 use codes: marijuana retail facility, marijuana cultivation facility, and marijuana emporium. So a marijuana retail facility is considered any establishment at which marijuana is sold but not cultivated, so not grown. In relation to medical marijuana, this would include compassion centers that do not cultivate their own marijuana on site. As you know, and it has been presented to you previously, right now there's only 3 compassion centers authorized in the state. And this is really in advance, if they amend that to allow more, that this would apply. As of right now, we would not accept any applications for a compassion center because they're not legally allowed. Excuse me. Okay, so the second use code is marijuana retail facilities. So let's see. Marijuana retail facilities, which we discussed, sold but not cultivated, are proposed to be allowed by special use permit in the commercial highway zone, but not including the Kingstown Road Special Management District, and in the Industrial 1 zone in West Kingston only. A marijuana cultivation facility is considered any establishment at which marijuana is cultivated. It could be sold and cultivated, it could be cultivated and manufactured, but basically anywhere that you grow marijuana would be considered a cultivation facility. This, in relation to medical marijuana, would include compassion centers that cultivate on site, cultivation centers, and then also any cooperative cultivation centers that are licensed by the state. Marijuana cultivation facilities are proposed to be allowed by special use permit in the Industrial 1 zone in West Kingston only. And you have maps of those zones, I think, in your memos. So a marijuana emporium is considered a retail or commercial establishment or club at which marijuana is used and or sold or dispensed for immediate on-site use or consumption. And those are prohibited in all zoning districts of the town. So there are some conditions relative to the special use permits. First, the special use permit applications must include a copy of the licensing application that went to the state, so that way we can get all the details of what they've applied for. Second, marijuana retail and cultivation facilities cannot be located within 1,000 feet of a pre-existing public or private school, preschool, or licensed daycare facility. And that doesn't include higher education. Third, marijuana retail and cultivation facilities cannot be located within 2,000 feet of each other. And I think the board was interested in this clause specifically because they did not want to create sort of a marijuana district in town where there was a proliferation of such uses. There's a requirement that hours of operation be restricted to between 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. There are required security measures, which are primarily governed by the Department of Business Regulation, but that we would want to make sure are enforced. All marijuana retail and cultivation facilities would have to go through a development plan review in front of the planning board. And basically, development plan review would be utilized to ensure that the facility is buffered from any adjacent residential areas, that the exterior appearance of the structure is consistent with the neighborhood, that lighting is appropriate, and that wastewater treatment facilities are reviewed and approved by the town's Department of Public Services. As I think we discussed earlier, the cultivation facilities in the West Kingston Industrial 1 are on the town's groundwater protection overlay district. So it's important that those wastewater treatment facilities be reviewed and approved. And I think that sums it up.
Okay. I think in the work session, Liz noted a typo in here. Are we going to need to make an amendment or regarding the preschools?
I think it was the wording, right?
Yeah, it says 1,000 feet from a pre-existing public or private school, not including higher education facilities or preschools or any licensed daycare center.
Yeah, so I think if you wanted to make that more clear, you could change. So we're looking at page 2 of Exhibit 1, Section 504.15, B1. So I think you would want to say 1,000 feet from a pre-existing public or private school, preschool, or any licensed daycare center, not including higher education facilities. So just stick that clause at the end instead of in the middle.
Get that, Mike? Okay. Any questions for Chelsea?
Talked about it a lot during the work session. You guys obviously put a lot of work and a lot of thought into it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work the planning board put into this. I know it was multiple meetings for them. It was chosen to do commercial highway. Why not some of these other commercial districts? Were they too close to?
A lot of them would have been zoned out by the 1,000-foot, but also I think that the planning board was looking at areas that already are vehicle-oriented as opposed to, pedestrian-oriented, thinking that these could be, like a compassion center could be a larger scaled operation. It might not be appropriate for like a commercial neighborhood district.
Maybe this is a question for Mike to answer. With approving everything or not zoning for emporiums, will that open us up for potential lawsuits down the road?
No, because zoning is prospective. Can't go backwards. So I don't see an issue at all.
Any other questions up here? Okay, at this time, if there's any public comments, please come forward, state your name.
John Kelly, I live in West Kingston. The reason I don't understand all of the codes and the use codes and the subs, but does this mean here the notes that whatever facilities are established will be in West Kingston?
For the cultivation, that would be the only West Kingston would be the only area available in the industrial zones of West Kingston.
And could you be more specific where that would be exactly?
I can provide you with this.
Everything you see in purple is the industrial one zone.
What road is that?
This is Kingstown Road here.
Okay.
So you can see the railroad is there.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
It's just
So there's a map that was provided to the council, industrial one zone in West Kingston. The map shows a purple area, which is the industrial one. It basically surrounds the train station, the intersection of the train station and Kingstown Road, approximately.
There's
Is that where
a little bit
the
of
farm is?
I'm not sure if that covers I think the Cottrell Farm is zoned residential, not industrial, but I'm not 100% certain on that.
The reason I'm concerned about that is I think in October we had a meeting, I don't know if it was in the town council or the planning board, regarding the use of solar panel fields. And one of the locations was the Cottrell Farm. And I'm wondering if West Kingston is going to be the place where all of these odd things are squeezed in which case the nature of West Kingston is going to change. And I think not a good way.
Well, I think on the map that Chelsea referenced, it appears to be a relatively small area around the train station, and that's it. There's no other areas. And there's quite a lengthy process that people would have to go through to get one of these licenses. It wouldn't be like they just come in and apply for it and get it. There'd be lots of opportunity for public input and discussion on it. So I don't think anybody would be able to just come in and do it. I think it would be pretty well known, and a lot of people would be involved in the process. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but...
Well, can I ask again then, why is it just West Kingston and not any other place in South Kingstown?
I think, Chelsea indicated that the way that the ordinance was written with some of the things that we prohibit, like you can't be within 1,000 feet of a school or 2,000 feet of one another in certain residential areas, that was the only area that met all those requirements. Is that right, Chelsea?
I would just add that a cultivation facility generally is an indoor operation, can take a large footprint, and so industrial zones in town are generally the preferred area for that type of operation. It would be all contained indoors, and the industrial one area is really one of the only places in town that we have only 1% of the town's land is actually zoned industrial. It just happens to be West Kingston. The other industrial areas are like the P Steel Mill, the Palisades Mill, concrete plant. They're already sort of functioning operations. So I think the board was just looking for a place that sort of made sense.
I don't know what to say. It doesn't. I don't think this is something I would like, but as you indicated, we're going to have additional hearings on this subject.
Well,
more input from public and other interested parties would be held.
If I can answer, if they adopt this amendment as proposed, what would be required is a special use permit.
Okay.
For someone to get a special use permit, everyone within 200 feet of the proposed site would have to be notified. There'd also be advertising in the newspaper, et cetera, so even people beyond the 200 feet, it's an open hearing process, and they would have to prove that they meet the standards for a special use permit in order to be granted it. So although there wouldn't be another hearing here, it would be at the zoning board level.
Okay. But in this particular area, I don't know what's located within 200 feet of this area. I don't live within 200 feet of that area, but it doesn't sound like something I would want in West Kingston.
I understand.
So would I then have input?
You would have input if you came to the meeting where such an application were being sought, and The zoning board agendas are public. The advertising that has to go in the newspaper would be public. If you're not within the 200 feet, no, you would not get a special mailer advising you of it.
Would what I say out of such a meeting have any effect?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you don't. The 200 feet simply defines those who have to get mail.
Okay.
Anyone in town.
Okay.
Yes.
I got it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
This question is for Chelsea. I'm not sure if you know the answer or not, but with the 2,000 feet from each other, how many cultivation centers could you have?
I think it depends where they are. You know, if it's in the center of the Industrial 1 district, probably one.
Okay.
If it's at the northern end and the southern end, probably two. And that would
It looks like no more than two.
no more than two, I would say, and that's, you know, having them located in the correct places. That to happen.
Bob Traeger, South Kingstown, Succotash Road. I had a couple of little things written down for public forum, you know, like thanking you guys for having open forum and having this televised so the public has an opportunity. Now, this is definitely a subject that I would think if public was informed, maybe they are informed, I don't know who's listening to this today, but marijuana is something I have not indulged with, but I know many people that do. And I find it ludicrous the way the government has handled the drug situation in this country for so many years, I can't even count them. And we got millions, hundreds of thousands of people in jail for nothing. There's all kinds of things, but this meeting's about, gee, where can you grow it? You know, there's a lot more to this than where you can grow it. And my question was going to be about this is just quickly, I feel very ignorant because it's something that I don't dwell on it. I dwell on health care, though, what's going on in this country in health care. Has this got something to do with health care? You know, it's unbelievable what's going on in this country. What we'll swallow as a public and what we'll put up with is beyond belief in my mind. But anyway, on this, the question I was just thinking about as I was sitting there is, are we already on the path of, say, Colorado, the way they handle marijuana in the state?
I think what we want to do here is not be caught off guard by, if we put zoning restrictions in place now, we can have some control. If we had no zoning restrictions and it became legal in the state, then I think we would have a much more significant problem.
Well, I'm personally in favor of doing it the right way, but it shouldn't be something that is squashed by the powers to be, just like the drug companies squash the sale, getting drugs in this country. You have to pay 10 times more than anybody else, and just the way we have health care for profit will never work in this country. I don't know how long it's going to take us to figure it out. But people, I understand why. Like in a case of myself, I'm on, the public Medicare, and I have no complaints about my health care. It's wonderful. But I'm not a kind of a person, I hope I'm not, that doesn't give a darn about anybody else. And I don't care if anybody else is 1 million out of 20 million. Or that's 20 million, that's 1 million of people that don't get health care. We're going to kill the things that are being said. Elizabeth Warren, I mean, I listen to everything on C-SPAN I can, and and it's hard to listen at times, but she's not that hard to listen to. And I want to say one thing about our two senators too, that I know we happen to be in a state where we have a couple of people that do think in a positive way, but they still can't get anything done. It's amazing to me. It's amazing what's going on. I won't be around much longer to see how it all plays out, I don't think. But you never know. Maybe I will. If I keep fishing, whatever, I don't know, maybe it'll keep me going. But anyway, this particular thing, it's, to me, I can't believe there's not a few people here to stand in front of you. I'm not going to take any more of your time right now on this. I'm going to get up again in one public forum, but I just can't believe it. One of the things I wanted to say tonight, maybe I'll get it out of the way now, and I won't do the public forum, is that I would like you guys to figure out a way to encourage people to come to this meeting and just talk about some general things that are going on in our country for a half an hour. Give them a half an hour. I can't believe people don't want it. I'm shocked. It's the apathetic nature of our. We have it all. You know, we are. I've said many times at this meeting too. We are living in a bubble in South Kingstown. This is an unusual place. It's a beautiful place, and it's a wonderful place to live. But you don't have to go too far to find otherwise. I'll get up in a minute, maybe, if I can say something else.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Trigger. Other comments from the public? No.
David Goss. I'm a resident of Peacedale, but I own a business in the IND1 zone, Liberty Cedar, and I think I'm the only one here that actually is involved in that zone. I've been there for 27 years. First of all, I think it's fairly appalling that there's an industrial zone, IND1, on a groundwater overlay district without any public facilities such as sewer or water. So you make a mention to wastewater treatment, and all of the wastewater treatment is depending on ISDS. So maybe you need to consider putting some sewers over there. That would be a good start. And I'm also wondering why you're limiting this to 2,000 feet between the facilities, which we'll limit it to 2 or maybe 3 if you really stretch it out. So the first applicants get locked in, and everyone else that's going to be in there will not have that opportunity. So why is this limited to just 2,000 feet?
I think that was a consideration of the planning board. I would ask Chelsea if she had any further
comments on that one?
I think the thought was that the board did not want a proliferation of marijuana-related uses in the area. I cannot say that the 2,000 feet represents any specific distance that that is based on something. I think it was a distance that they thought was reasonable.
I think there's probably not much more than 8 or 10 lots total in that IND1 zone. It could be something like that. So back to the sewers thing. Is that something that's ever been considered that's going to be happening in that area?
There was recently a West Kingston master plan, village plan done. I don't know what it came to conclusions in terms of wastewater treatment.
There are no plans for extension of street sewers in West Kingston at this point, beyond the point where they currently are.
Part of that zone does have sewers, but the other half does not. The eastern end of Liberty Lane does not have sewers, so it's.
When those sewers were brought down, they were brought down specifically with an economic development grant for what was American Conversion at that time.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's an industrial zone on a groundwater overlay district, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
People that in that area wanted that and were willing to pay for that, then the sewers could be extended on their behalf.
So how would I continue that conversation?
I think
you would need to have a discussion in terms of your neighbors and all, and you would deal with the Public Services Department. They could give you a projected cost associated with that type of an extension, and they would have to determine whether the state would approve that extension. But we certainly could have the discussion.
So on the eastern end of Liberty Lane, there's I believe there's six lots that are in the zone. So I'm sure all of those would.
If you want to give me a call, I'd be glad to get you in touch with Public Services. You can start that discussion.
I have had a talk with Henry Meyer in the water district, and he said that there was really no communication between the town and the water when Watson Lane was paved, when they could have put their water in at that time, and the town's different departments didn't have any communication with each other. So he would have been happy to put water onto Liberty Lane through Watson, but he didn't even know it was being paved, and so then they were shut out of it at that point. So
I'm not going to question what Mr. Meyer has said to you. Certainly, if Mr. Meyer had wanted to extend the water there, I'm sure he would have contacted the Public Services Department to talk about it.
I do think it's a good conversation to have, though. I think as an industrial zone and something that we're considering developing.
Well, we're definitely trying to protect our water, so
right.
Everything should be done to do whatever we can to do that.
I do think that there are other grant programs that could potentially be looked at to help with cost. So I think it's something that we can talk about further.
Okay, great. Well, thanks.
There might be some. Just hold on. Is there anybody else to speak before?
Karina was going to get up.
I've already monopolized a lot of time, but I don't mind because I haven't been here in a while. This gentleman just brought out a few points that I think are very important. And one of the things that's on my mind, I'm not a numbers person. People get up here and they're able to do that stuff. I don't think in terms of, this number and that number and putting these numbers together. That's for somebody else. That's not my life. I don't like it, and I don't care to do it. But I wish I could. I wish I could just spit that stuff out, but I can't do it. But I think that something like this, as it's coming to pass in Rhode Island, I'm hoping that it isn't something hidden in the chambers, and a few people are going to cash in on it and get the whole enchilada for themselves, some corporate power. And I hope I've made a point there. I believe that a small person of not much means, but I think that they would be probably, from what I'm already gathering, just a sense of what I hear here right now. Well, by the time you get all of the permits and boom, that's like building a house. Somebody says for years and years, oh, you can't build anything that size, or you can't do that. And then all of a sudden, about 10 years later, mansions go up. It's all about money. We all know that. It isn't totally all about money, but it's a big part of the factor of what you can do. Healthcare, it's the same thing. It's about money. And it's really big time about money now for the older people in this country. I don't know how we can sit back and we'll see what the Senate does. We don't know what they're going to do. They might be a little more rational human beings there. That's the only hope that I have right now. That I'm waiting to see what the NewsHour has to say. I'm not going to say much more. I wanted to mention David McCullen. Does you know who I'm talking about? He was on Charlie Rose. He's written many great books on great people in this country. And I guess he just received I forget the name of the medal. I'm not good at memorizing things like that either. The Medal of Freedom, one of the highest awards this country gives to anybody. He just received it. And I've listened to him being interviewed more than once, and I cried when he was done with Charlie Rose. My tears came to my eyes. The guy is so right about so many things, about human nature and about what we need to do and how we need to approach life and all the rest of it. But anyway, what was he most proud of? And what he's most proud of, as proud as he was of the medal that he received, is that every one of his books are still in print. They're still being printed to this day. Every one of them, from the first one he wrote to the last. And that's something to say. And I'm ashamed that I haven't. I'm going to try. I started reading a few years ago, and I've been reading quite a bit now. And I'm going to try to read every one of them. Anyway, have a nice evening.
Thank you. All right. I don't think there are any other public comments. If so, okay.
Dave Goss again. I'm just wondering if anyone here, seeing that there really is hardly anyone here, finds it really amazing that this being such a big issue, that no one showed up to come to this hearing.
I think we've heard that. It is perhaps a little surprising. That
It's really appalling, really. But at any rate, I'm here because I'm in the zone. But it's.
I thank you for coming, and I thank everybody who did decide to come out. And I think there are probably people who care about the issue who just don't want to speak for whatever reason. And it is an important issue, but I think maybe it's also a sign of how accepting the general public has become with marijuana-related topics. I think in response to another couple of comments, at this point it says 2,000. If the community turns out to be okay with more of these facilities, then we can always go back and amend the zoning ordinance, and so it's not just a couple winners that get selected, So that's, it's not written in stone. But I think this is a pretty good suggestion from where to start from the planning board. Karina, did I see you begin to stand up to speak? Okay. I would entertain a motion to close.
Is there some sort of a size designation that's going to be allowed? It's like 5,000 square feet or 20,000 square feet or 100,000 square feet? Like Schneider Electric, for example, is in the zone, and that place is huge.
That's huge.
So that could be turned into a facility that is like, I don't even know how big that place is.
And they've got
Let's hope they never.
Was there any?
Yeah.
The cultivators, it's still in discussion.
Yeah, I think there's sort of state regulation on that. In the zone, it would be the size of the building would be regulated by the maximum building coverage for that zone, which I don't know off the top of my head, but maybe Jeff does.
Or, for example, Arnold Lumber could say, we'll give up the lumber business and we're going to grow marijuana, and they have a lot of square footage over there, so.
That's a good question.
And so that would be permitted if it's on the, if the square footage, if the roof area is allowed in the zone, then they could fill that with.
Whatever the zoning allows, and then also whatever the state code will end up being.
So that state code hasn't been established yet.
Right.
Karina Burston, Wakefield. I think Mr. Goss has a very good point, and the town council might consider approving this with some kind of size restriction in terms of overall size of the industrial area. Assuming that the state puts in a reasonable restriction, it wouldn't be necessary, but if they don't, we might want to consider the size in relation to that specific area and the traffic that it might bear.
Right. They can determine footprints. Seeing no other comments, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
So moved. Any discussion?
Yes, I actually have a concern, and it was, sorry? We've already closed it.
No, we haven't voted on it.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Not a comment on the closing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously. Now, do I hear a motion on item 7B?
This is where we can have a discussion.
Yeah.
After we make the motion.
I make a motion that we approve item 7B with the amendment to item, oh gosh, what section was it?
Section 504.15B1, where you're going to move preschool up to next to pre-existing public or private school.
So moved. And should I read the whole?
If you could, in addition to that amendment, and I know we're going to have discussion, but as part of the motion, could you please just include in that motion that you are adopting and incorporating as your own the recommendations of the Planning Board dated March 29, 2017, by adopting their findings of fact on the consistency with the comprehensive community plan and the purposes of zoning. So one big motion.
So moved. Thank you, Mike.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. So moved. Discussion.
One of the concerns I had, and I asked the question when it came to the industrial zone, was the number of feet in terms of how many cultivation centers you could have there. And I can't recall, and Chelsea, if you could correct me, can you have a cultivation center with a retail operation? Okay. But let's say that you only had a cultivation center. I think 2,000 feet in that small of a zone is very limiting. So I think that's something we should look at. One of the comments in the audience was the fact that the select few could end up with these very lucrative cultivation centers. And for me, I don't know what that number is in terms of number of feet, but 2,000 feet is not an exact science, it's just a number of feet.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with the 2,000 feet, and I base that feeling on the planning board held many meetings and studied this, and this is a recommendation that they came up with. I didn't attend a lot of those meetings, so I'm not likely to second guess them and trust that they had, valid reasons to plug that number in there.
Yeah, I can appreciate what you're saying, Brian, especially because the areas are pretty small. It's not like we're talking about wide commercial areas that...
And they're also indoors, so...
Right, yeah. So, I mean, I understand the reasoning and the logic between not wanting to create sort of marijuana districts. I think that applies more in a suburban, like a city setting where, you're a lot more condensed than we are here. We can, like Abel said, certainly if the demand is there, we can always go back and amend it. There is a process, but I'm comfortable with adopting the 2,000 feet now because of the process that they went through and the feedback that they took, and that was their recommendation. So,
I also think that there are, I can't name them for you, other communities that have used that same 2,000 foot. Then, as Steve and I were just speaking, the zoning board, they could ask for dimensional variance. If someone came in and they were, 1,950 feet, you could always ask for a dimension.
Right.
That was my only concern, and I just wanted to bring that up.
Other discussion? All right. All in favor of item 7B, say aye.
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 And that motion carries unanimously. Item 7C is a public hearing to consider proposed amendments to the promotional procedures policy, say that 5 times fast, of the South Kingstown Police Department rules and regulations, as shown on Exhibit 2.
Good evening. Joe Jaber, Interim Police Chief. What we're trying to do here is we've had a promotional procedure in effect for several years, and it's fine. There's not that much wrong with it, but we wanted to change it a little to get it in line with accreditation and also make it more transparent for the police officers. So what we propose to change here is we would eliminate the captain's potential rating, which was very difficult to do, and just give a 10-point, let the chief start off the testing and give him 10 points to grade the applicants on. Next, we would give the written exam, and we'd like that to count for 40 points. I should mention that this is based on 100 points, the testing procedure. So what we would like to do is give the written exam after the chief's points are given out. Then we would eliminate the chief from the oral board. Instead, we would have 3 ranking officers from 3 separate departments, and they would grade each candidate individually, and that process would be 30 points. So we also wanted to put education and military in a separate section so we could give the proper pointage to those candidates. So we wanted to make it for those officers who may have military and not education. We wanted to, of course, recognize their service as well as those who have education and have gone on. The last section, we would look at the officer's seniority. And in the past, we would give the maximum 10 seniority points for 10 years of service. What we've done is we still have the 10 seniority points, but it would take 20 years to get to the top 10 points for that. And the reason we looked at that and wanted to do that, in addition to other departments doing the same thing, is we wanted to give incentive for the officers to stay longer. So if they stay for the 20 years, they would get the full 10 points. So that's basically what we've done, trying to make it more transparent and make it fair. Take the chief out of some of the areas that he would be better off not judging. It would be more independent police officers from other departments that can look at the candidates and judge for themselves. So that's basically what the changes are. I'm not sure if you have any questions. It's probably pretty boring stuff.
It seems like good changes. I don't know that I have any questions. Steve, did you want to?
A couple of other points. We've had procedures in place. The last refinement was in 1994. Prior to that was 1988. One of the things I think is important that Joe didn't mention is that we also increased the eligibility from 65 points to 70. We think that there should be at least a 70 for consideration for promotion. What we also did is we limited the list to a top 5 and then provided the chief with the opportunity, if it fell below 5 eligible on that list, to be able to terminate that list and start anew. So, overall, we're looking at how do we reward merit, how do we reward education, longevity, as well as looking at the person's ability to understand what our rules and regulations are, as well as what state law is, and to be able to mentor the workforce that is below that person. So that's what we've attempted to do. I think that also from an accreditation standpoint, this meets their policies.
Yes, I apologize. I left out the 70% as opposed to 65, which is makes it a little more stringent for those officers to study.
Any questions up here at the council table?
So this has also been vetted with your the organized IBPO?
Yes. We have the full support of the IBPO.
Great. I think town's been doing a good job promoting the right people so far. So I'm sure that this will only make it better. Is there any commentary from the public on this item? All right. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing?
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 I make a motion, we approve item 7C as presented.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe.
That brings us to item 8, communications. This is a communication dated April 22nd from Richard Thicke, Chairman of the Friends of National Wildlife Refuges of Rhode Island, requesting adoption of a resolution seeking congressional support for refuge revenue sharing and operations and maintenance funding. It's been received and placed on file. What do we want to do with it?
I make a motion that we endorse item 8A and send that along.
Moved. Discussion? So this is a resolution that will be going to our federal delegation. It was sent to us by somebody who works locally with a National Wildlife Refuge, trying to preserve the work that they do. So I think this is a great one. All in favor say aye.
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 That motion carries unanimously. Item 8B is a resolution adopted April 24th, 2017 by the Scituate Town Council in opposition to House Bill 6122 and Senate Bill 0810, which would establish the Rhode Island Water Cooperative Authority. It's been received, placed on file. What do we want to do with it?
I make a motion that we put item 8B on file.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. Item 8E is a communication dated May 2nd, 2017 from Byron Cahoon, Chairman, South Kingstown Dog Park Association, concerning improvements to the dog park. Received, placed on file, and referred to the Director of Leisure Services. Do we want to do anything else with this?
Just make a few comments. So we received this communication. We also received a memorandum from Terry Murphy. We talked about this quite a while in the work session. There are a number of things that I think we're going to do cooperatively with the Dog Park Association and the Recreation Department to try to resolve some of these issues. And having said that, we are doing an awful lot in the right direction. So a little tweaking may improve it. It's been directed to the Director of Leisure Services. I recommend we place it on file.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously, and it brings us to item 9 on the agenda, which is comments from interested citizens. This is your opportunity to come up and tell us what we're doing well or not, or tell us whatever you're thinking. Just state your name when you come to the podium.
Bill Rosen, Kingston. I wasn't going to talk about this, but it was brought up by this gentleman right here about health care. And I just want to possibly just think about these things in a futuristic manner. But it seems to me that with what's going on right now in Congress, and I agree with the speaker that the people that are represented for us in Congress right now are doing as good a job as they possibly can, but they're in the minority. I see coming down the road, if we don't do something about the representation in Congress that is presently there and may continue for a while, that not only is health care for those people who don't work and aren't on Medicare, et cetera, is going to reach in, or as people say, the slippery slope is going to come down to those people that are on Medicare and those that do work and get the Medicare from their employers. But beyond that, I think that we in this state and we in this locality are going to have to take these issues a little bit more seriously, because they're going to have large budget consequences that potentially could come down the road, and maybe sooner than we would like. There's been some discussion as to the way that the school committee had to take a 11% increase in their health benefits budget this year. I don't know what the town had to take. I think it was about 8%. Is that correct, Steve? 10.7. And those are going to be very, very small in the future if things go as they're going right now. The House bill that was just passed is proposing to take $1 trillion out of the federal budget, and the only place that I can see that that's going to be made up is in the states and in the localities. And so we're going to have a big bite out of what we're paying right now. So I agree with you completely. We've got to put these issues to the front of the burner here and really take them into consideration. And I would hope the people that are watching on TV right now would come down here and speak to some of these issues, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be affected. Right now I'm on Medicare, and hopefully we can salvage that because it really is a great program, and it should be universal for everybody. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know healthcare is on a lot of people's minds. A lot of that is not determined here at the local level. Of course, I do recommend getting informed about some bills that are at the General Assembly at this point that would sort of lock in a lot of the protections that have been guaranteed under Obamacare. It's still going to be very expensive for the state, as you mentioned. But there are things that we can do locally to try and prevent the worst. And, you know, hopefully it won't be as bad as it looks at this point in Washington.
It's so hard. I just got up. I just had to get up. But thank you very much for what you said. And I don't know what it will take to get people. See, what I can't do is because I'm a dyslexic. I can barely spell, and I can't get on the machine. I'd be whapping those things out like Trump does, like nobody's business if I could do it. But it's just not something I do. But I don't know. I wasn't even going to say this, but it just came up into my mind now. Things pop in and out. We've elected a president that doesn't read. Let's take a moment of silence on that. It's hard to believe. I didn't read for many years. I have a master's degree. I've read, but I wasn't a reader of so much unbelievably good material and so much unbelievably junk out there. So, I mean, and now we've got this mass media with the 5,000 stations that some of them are so atrocious I couldn't leave them on for more than 2 seconds. And some of them are pretty darn good, like the NewsHour, and I like Charlie Rose. I try to catch him every day. Not him. It's the people he has on, the discussions he has, the commentary that we don't get. I mean, that's why one of the main reasons I come to these meetings is because it's an opportunity to just do what I'm doing right now for a second or two. Because, you know, people, I don't think we talk a lot in this country, and maybe we do, and where I'm at, isolated down there on the dock, you know, talk to the seagulls, you know. But I'm going to put a sign on my little office down there. Well, come on in, let's talk. Anyway, I hope people will come and talk. And that's one of the reasons I get up on him. This is how I am, too. I forget what I'm going to say. And I'm not afraid of listening to the other side of the story if there is another side. And I know there is another side. I do listen. I purposely do not watch anything and listen to somebody on both sides of an issue. I don't want to hear MSNBC, and I don't want to listen to. I don't listen to either one of them. I try to pick something where there's people with back and forth and try to come up with what is the solution. My feeling on health care is it's got to be a nonprofit situation. Now, you mentioned government, and everybody goes crazy in this country. Well, I don't care. It doesn't have to be government. Figure out how they do nonprofit, and they could be. And something I listened to the other day, which was a little thing on a program that they're giving people about $1,000 worth of food, fresh vegetables, and teaching them how to cook and things like that. And They said that $1,000 investment, $20,000 reward for the health that these people are going to, that have already benefited from having a better diet. And, you know, we hear it every day on TV, and I don't listen to it, obviously. You know, I'm 30 pounds overweight, but, you know, the idea is that's individual responsibility is, I know that's I always felt I'm an independent, but Republican generally, you know, everybody take care of themselves, and, you know, everybody should be able to do it. Well, the fact of the matter is the society is not set up that way anymore. We're not back in the rural days when everybody grew their own food and milked their own cows. I mean, it's kind of silly. It really is silly, the stuff that goes on. And you listen to it, and you just, it's just hard to believe that, but people aren't. People are so busy, and I understand that. Here I am, 77 years old. I went for 8 hours today just fooling around on my boat, building something. I mean, what about people that actually have to make a living and pay their mortgage and everything? You know, I understand why people don't participate too, but when the pressure's on, the kind of participation you get, as we've witnessed in France just recently, that election, whew, just imagine. I mean, what would have happened if that went the other way? Even when they don't even know how it's going to go with the way it went, but it went the other way. Holy, you know, what a world we're living in. You know, is that the way we're going to go, living under fear and, okay, that's enough, Bobs. Anyway.
Thank you.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Any comments from council members up here?
Just going to say thanks to, I went to the T-ball or Little League opening day over at Tuckertown Park, and there was also, I think, about 1,000 soccer teams practicing on the same day. And it's just nice to see with the weather getting nice, our parks and how wonderfully maintained they are, and all the landscaping, you know, that's being done because it's springtime. It just, you drive through town, it's a reminder of how lucky we are to have the departments that we do that take care of those things. So kudos to them, and if you haven't been to one of our public parks lately, you should head there because it is beautiful.
All right, I think it's your turn, Steve.
Mine will be during the executive session.
All right, that brings us to appointments. Do we have any reappointments to make? We'll leave that for another day. Item 13, new business. Resolution authorizing the extension of an award of contract granted on June 22nd, 2015 to Red the Uniform Tailor of New Jersey for custom police uniforms for the one-year period commencing July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018 in accordance with the original bidding specifications and the terms and unit prices as modified in the proposal dated April 1st, 2017. Said award of contract is subject to cancellation without penalty or fees should the vendor fail to perform to the satisfaction of the town of South Kingstown. Further described in a memo from the police chief to the town.
Looking to continue for a minimum next year. The increases range between a 3 and almost a 6% increase on one of the garments that winter shirts. This is necessary. We'll be taking a look at this on whether we should continue with this contract in the future, or whether or not we should put it back out to a public bid. One of the real problems are there are not many companies that are available that are able to provide the supplies on an ongoing basis with a uniform shirt or the pant.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve 13A.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. 13E is a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute Rhode Island Department of Transportation condemnation documents for Route 108 and Curtis Corner Road intersection improvements, further detailed in a memo from the Public Services Director to the town manager.
The state has come forward with a condemnation notice for a very small piece of property that is located at the intersection of Kingstown Road and Curtis Corner Road at the Public Safety Building. That property is necessary for drainage purposes to provide for a rain garden that will be installed there. The improvements that will take place at that intersection will provide for new signalization with pedestrian control signals, raised sidewalks, or a short distance in either direction, as well as to be able to provide left-hand turn lanes for northbound on Kingstown Road to be able to get to Curtis Corner, southbound to be able to get to Saugatucket Road. It should improve the efficiency of that intersection and deal with some of the backups, particularly the ones that we experience both when URI is going into session or at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Ask the council to approve as presented.
Do I hear a motion?
Go ahead.
To approve 13E.
Second?
So moved. Any discussion? I think it's great to do a little work on that intersection, prevent some of that traffic buildup. So if this helps make that happen, all for it. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. 13G is a resolution authorizing the purchase from New England Fitness Distributors of Glastonbury, Connecticut for cardio exercise equipment for the Community Recreation Center. This is in accordance with all RFP specifications and the National Joint Purchasing Alliance Master Price Agreement. It's in an amount not to exceed $17,306, further described in a memo from the Director of Leisure Services to the Town Manager.
These cardio machines would be located in the small multi-purpose room at the new recreation center. We had targeted about $12,000 to be expended in this area. We also had cost savings on a couple of the other ancillary purchases that we were having, particularly telephone and computer and printers. We're looking to be able to purchase 4 pieces of equipment that can be installed in that room. We've got 3 different proposals here. Recommendation is to go with the lowest qualified bidder at the $17,306 for those 4 units.
Make a motion we approve item 13G as presented.
So moved. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. 13H is a resolution authorizing the town manager to sign a public access easement on behalf of the town of South Kingstown with the Coastal Resources Management Council in connection with the reconstruction of the Mary Carpenter seawall to provide public access to the water from Matunic Beach Road, further described in a memo from the town solicitor to the town council.
The assent that we received for rebuilding the Mary Carpenter relic wall required a public access easement, and basically we've been working with CRMC and their legal counsel in terms of coming up with the appropriate language. We're all in agreement at this point. This is also the easement that the CRMC was looking for pursuant to a letter we received the end of February requesting that we submit this easement within 90 days, so this will also be in compliance with that.
Good. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve 13H.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion?
Do you have a question, Mike? It says in our memorandum, but just for the record, you have reached out to Hang 10 LLC to see if they had any input or feedback on this easement, and there was nothing?
No. They've shared with us. They too, Hang 10 also, on their property has to have this public access easement. They have provided us with a copy of theirs also, but we did not get any specific input on the one that will be on the town land.
And we don't...
We provided it to them because, as you know, they requested that we consider selling the property to them. It's going to be encumbered by an easement. We wanted to be sure that they saw what the language was. But it's pretty boilerplate. I mean, it's not something that's different or unique, let's put it that way.
You wouldn't expect it to be a hang-up for us?
I would not expect it, but you never know with this situation. But no, I would not expect it.
Thanks, Mike.
Any further discussion? I don't know if public discussion is in order. No, we're in the middle of discussion
They're still
on
in public session.
this.
So normally, these are just council matters?
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Sorry, Bob.
I just wanted to say that's a very important thing, these easements. Just noted the tone, if you don't mind me commenting. Tone is worrying about what are we gonna have to deal with? What I'd like, one of the reasons that I got involved in coming to these meetings years ago is that public access is a big problem in Rhode Island. And anytime something comes up, people go crazy that live in the area, don't want anybody around, but we should be fighting for public, because you are the council. I like to hear people fight for public access.
This will be additional public access that doesn't exist today, so this is a good thing.
All right, at this point, we've come to the end of our agenda. We're going to have to kick folks out, but
The
we need a
motion would be to convene into executive session pursuant to 4246(5)(a)(2) litigation relative to potential litigation at the campus cinema property.
So moved.
Second?
Someone? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oh, yeah, it's a roll call.
Council Vice President Collins,
Aye.
Councilman DeCruz,
Here. Aye, sorry.
Councilwoman Gledhill,
Aye.
Councilman Veely.
Aye.
Unanimous vote to adjourn to closed executive session at 9:10.
Is that a thing? Do you have to say aye instead of here?